current affair. It's great to be with you while Tracy takes a break. Well, we thought we'd seen it all as far as public housing stuff-ups, but this one takes the cake. We've uncovered a tenant who turned their government-subsidised property into a drug lab. The department then moved an innocent family into the same property and left them to live in the toxic mess. Reporter Dan Nolan will join us in a moment, but first, his exclusive investigation.
It's another positive reading.
I don't like drugs at all, and yeah, my kids have been breathing it in and so have we the whole time.
As it stands, the property is certainly contaminated.
Okay. You would trust that they'd put you somewhere safe?
So I'd be moving out straight away.
You guys need to get out here and fix this up as soon as possible. I think it's just horrifying. It's a massive oversight. It's a massive error by the authorities.
This is just not on. Our government putting an innocent family into a toxic house.
When Peter and Jasmine were offered this public housing property, they thought there'd been a mistake.
Yeah, we thought that it wasn't a housing house, like public housing house. We thought we'd come to the wrong house. And yeah, we actually liked the place.
But this neat and tidy three-bedder hides a toxic history. The previous tenant, Trevor John Nolan, was busted here by the police running a meth lab while living with up to 9 children. He pleaded guilty to 3 charges: producing and possessing a dangerous drug, and was promptly evicted by housing authorities. Peter and Jasmine then moved in with their 3 young children, only to be informed by neighbours about the drug past.
So the housing officials never told you anything about the past history of this place?
No, not a thing.
Removing all the residue from a meth lab requires specialist cleaning companies. If it's not done properly, a house can remain toxic for years. So we decided to test Peter and Jasmine's place to see whether the housing department did the job properly.
But if you see the 2 lines, that'll be a negative.
Dane Beattie is from Meth Lab Cleaners Australia.
And up here would be a good place to test.
We start in the garage where police found most of the drug-making equipment. A cotton bud is used to swab a small area, which is then mixed with liquid. 4 drops are placed on the tester, a bit like a home pregnancy test.
You can see control lines come up. So that's always going to come up. But we haven't got the T line come up yet, okay, which is not a good sign. That tells us it's likely to be positive.
The control test on the left has 2 lines, which means it's negative, but the garage test on the right clearly only has 1 line.
This is telling us that it's over the legal limit in Australia of 0.5 micrograms.
So that wall up there still has methamphetamine?
Up there we still have meth residue over the legal limit.
A second test above the garage door comes back negative, so we try a 3rd test along the brickwork.
What's that one telling you?
So this swab here is telling us that that's a positive reading. So we've got the control line that's lit up and the T line that hasn't.
It's now two positive readings, this
That's
side
right,
and
so
that side.
That side, so up here, both areas where there were dust.
We then move on to the laundry area, where Dane immediately spots problems with the initial clean-up.
Obviously, if the house has been painted there, you can see here that the door frame hasn't been, so it's still unsealed.
Exposed timber absorbs meth residue, which will stay there until it's cleaned properly. Sure enough, the test comes back positive.
It tells us that's quite a strong reading to say that we do have meth contamination on the surface there.
Based on these tests, the laundry is more contaminated than the garage?
Based on these tests, that's certainly a high reading there.
It's now clear that Peter and Jasmine's house is contaminated with methamphetamine, but the manufacture of drugs releases other harmful substances too.
So if you're getting a positive for meth, then no doubt you've got a lot of other heavy metals or other toxic chemicals that are on the surface as well.
Next, we test the bathroom, a location of choice for many drug cooks to manufacture their narcotics.
Simply because they do have a sink, there is a vent pen they can turn on to help get rid of any of the toxins from the chemicals.
You can tell just by looking at the vent that it hasn't been cleaned in many years. The police drug bust here was 18 months ago.
If there is residue inside the vent, that lets you know that there has been a cook in the property.
Sure enough, it comes back positive too.
So there's a lot of contamination in this house?
It's certainly over the legal limit with that one there. There's no faint line at all, so it's certainly well over the 0.5.
The bathroom is the strongest reading so far, suggesting the drugs may have been cooked right here.
So we've got a contaminated garage, contaminated laundry, contaminated bathroom.
That's right, that's the 3 areas we've tested so far.
Thankfully for the unsuspecting tenants, tests in the kitchen came back clear. So next we try one of the bedrooms, which runs straight off the bathroom. Again, the timber is unsealed all the way around the door frame.
Especially having children around, as soon as they touch the door frame, they're getting the residue on their hand, they're touching their face, putting it in their mouth. So it's children that are most at risk.
And once again, it's contaminated.
Okay, so again, I'd say that one there was a positive.
That's another positive
Another
reading.
positive.
We've now tested in 10 locations throughout this property and 5 of them have come back positive. The strongest readings here in the laundry and the bathroom. Now, I'm pretty sure if the Housing Minister was living here, they'd be moving out straight away.
Dane from Meth Lab Cleaners Australia breaks the news to the new tenants.
The first thing I would say is probably been a cook, or probably most likely a cook inside the laundry or the bathroom area, and sort of spread throughout the house.
Peter and Jasmine, along with their 3 young kids, moved in 12 months ago after leaving emergency housing.
As it stands, the property is certainly contaminated.
Okay, so if I keep my children out of there as much as possible?
I'd certainly be not wanting them touching any services.
No,
I'd be trying to get them out as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I wouldn't want my children in there.
No.
How does that make you feel hearing that news?
Pretty upset, really, because we should have been told, before we moved in, especially with the young family, and it's not very happy at all.
Housing had put you in a toxic
Housing had put us
house.
in a toxic house.
So you wouldn't put your own kids in this situation. You shouldn't put anybody's children in this situation.
Radio broadcaster Neil Mitchell is appalled that housing authorities could treat a young family so badly.
We hear about sick house syndrome. This is exactly what we're talking about here. And there is a lot of international evidence to say you can get very sick by exposure to the meth in this way.
I'm not very happy that they've put us in a toxic house at all.
Jasmine says over the past year of living here, she and her youngest daughter have been sick more than usual.
Our immune system's been really low and we've been catching lots of colds and common bugs and stomach bugs.
The couple say they've always tried to keep themselves and their kids away from drugs.
What's your attitude to drugs?
Don't like them. I've seen a lot of families destroyed in them, and the last thing I wanted was my own family around them, and it works out that we've been living with it every day, and it's a big shock.
Peter calls up the Department of Housing in Ipswich, Queensland to see why the house wasn't cleaned properly before they moved in. He's assured by a staff member it was.
I'm a bit confused with this. Like, if you've got a clearance and they've found positive, fairly high positive testing, where does that leave us?
Strangely, she asks to speak with me about why we tested it.
You guys need to get out here and fix this up as soon as possible.
It turns out the property wasn't cleaned properly. Housing officials offered to move the family of 5 into a motel room while they had it retested to get specific levels of how much contamination there is. They're keeping those results a secret.
If they have cut corners to save money, then they have done this family a massive injustice.
The Queensland Housing Department refused to answer many of the questions we put to them, but in a statement said the house was subject to a professional hazmat clean and a certificate of clearance was issued. It's actively working to determine the reason for the positive test and is also now painting ceilings, architraves and door frames. It also issued a big thank you to the affected tenants for their understanding and patience.
How would you feel about living in this house?
Oh, look, if I tested my property and it came back positive like this, I'd be moving out straight away. I just wouldn't be taking the risk of having children in there.
The tenants also received 1 week's rent paid as compensation, $267.80.
You would trust that they'd put you somewhere safe?
Well, reporter Dan Nolan joins us now. Dan, what's the Housing Minister had to say about this, given that he's ultimately responsible?
Well, Layla, his name is Mick de Brenny, and he's currently lying very low about this one. I've been doing many public housing stories over the years, and this is the most disgraceful breach of trust that I've ever seen. And the Queensland Housing Minister so far hasn't said boo about it. I've been in contact with his advisors over the past 2 weeks since we first uncovered this, and all they've done is send painters out to paint over these toxic walls. The department says that it's now safe to live there. But this poor family have been living there for the past 12 months and they're worried sick about what the long-term health impacts might be. And as far as compensation goes, well, all they've been given is that measly 1 week's rent. Layla?
It's absolute madness. Dan Nolan, thank you.